Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is Applied Spirituality. Let me introduce you to our guest and our spirituality expert panel. Our guest today is Danielle Galt. She's a counselor, a consultant, as well as a seminar leader, and she's joining us from the beautiful country right above us to the north, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. And we have our spirituality panel, and let's begin with, let's see, who's to the left of Danielle is Jamie Lerner, and she is a spirituality cast member, and she's joining us from Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. I love that beautiful background behind you.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. And to the right of Danielle, we have Jane Adrian. She's also our spirituality cast member, and she's joining us from the south, from Atlanta. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
And congratulations for the transformation of Jane Adrian. It's gorgeous.
I'm the shrinking Jane Adrian.
Yeah. Yes. Fantastic. And we're going to try to get our fourth member back on, but she's having some technical issues, so we're going to continue trying from the technical booth, and that's Jane Eileen Cohn. So this is how the show will go today. In the first segment, we're going to be exploring a little bit from the cast members what is the Living Consciously TV show really about. And in the second segment, we'll be talking about the issues and also the problems within applied spirituality that a lot of people have. And in the third segment, we'll be talking about what are some of the solutions as well as modalities that any of our cast members and our guests have used in their practice and in their lives to help themselves, and that we can help our viewers. So let's get started with our first segment, which is what is the Living Consciously show is all about. And let's begin with Jane Adrian.
Well, to me, Steve, living consciously is a lifestyle, and this show presents a lifestyle to the listeners and to the watchers of how you can stay conscious moment by moment, because it's only when you're conscious that you're able to experience life to its fullest, and you're able to stand in your power, and you're able to do the things that you really want to do and create what you want in your life, rather than allowing everything outside yourself to rule what's happening to you. In other words, setting you up for victim mentality, which is an illusion. So that's really kind of what I see our role is on this show, is to assist people in understanding what it means to be conscious and what it means also to stay there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jean. What about you, Jamie?
Well, I think living consciously is a lovely option and a luxury that we can all afford. And for me, it's staying connected to myself moment to moment, and then demonstrating that on this show as I connect with all of you and our audience. And I think that we do a tremendous job at really demonstrating what consciousness looks like and feels like.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And what it is for me is really a dream come true. I've been on this journey for over 30 years, and not that I have arrived. I always feel like every day I'm just beginning. But what it is for me is really to have a kind of a contrast for viewers so that they can see and feel what really consciousness looks like and feels like. And how I accomplish it and how you accomplish it, I believe, is that we stay in the moment. And this is a reality show. And what that means is that none of this is scripted. We don't edit it. So we get to show up as human beings in our magnificence, or not. And I think that's fantastic. So thank you, everybody. So let's begin with segment 2, which is about what are the issues and the problems with, in general, people applying spirituality to their lives every day. And my first question is, of course, to our guest, Danielle. Danielle, I feel that spirituality has been getting a lot of lip service in the world. And
a lot of what?
Lip service.
Oh, lip service, yeah.
Okay. So I actually absolutely love and welcome this show so that we can explore how and why people are not using spirituality in their everyday life. And if they did, how would their lives be different? So let's begin with exploring that question, really. What is, in your opinion, applied spirituality?
I like the term you used about giving lip service to spirituality. So I think one has to start with some definition for themselves of, what is spirituality, because, it's easy to say you're spiritual, but it's another thing to put your actions where your intentions are. So I think that's the challenge of spirituality. When we get caught up into fear-based sort of feelings within our own bodies, and we get caught up into security issues and, financial concerns and worry about, health of family members and how that affects us. How do you stay spiritual? That's a challenge. And I think we face that every single day. Those of us who have the intention of wanting to contribute, more of who we are in the world and to bring the highest expression that we can in, serving others, ourselves, and the planet. That, it's we get caught up in our own fear-based stuff. It really can throw us off too. So always staying in that intentionality of wanting to do the best and the highest purpose for all people concerned is a challenge. I don't know if I answered your question, but...
Well, let's keep exploring and let's keep
Okay.
having this unfold right in front of us and the viewers. So if I think about, or if I look at the world, one of the countries that right now I'm reminded of or connected to is India. India is, I think, full of spiritual knowledge. Lots of gurus, lots of people for hundreds and thousands of years have been exploring spirituality, but in terms of applying spirituality, not so much. Why is that?
Yes. Well, I can't speak for India. We did go to India once, and it was an interesting experience. We had our lovely guru in New York State, Dr. Ramamurti Mishra, and he kind of taught us, the dynamism of life and how, drama in life is a teacher in itself. And there was, every time we went to the ashram, we always felt so energized and spiritualized, if you will, like we just felt so much love and devotion and happiness there. And when we went to India, we decided to go to one of the famous ashrams where the guru had been dead a long time or passed over. And we sat there and we thought, nothing's happening for us here, So I think sometimes spirituality can become, an idea, a boxed-in kind of thing, and it loses its living presence if it becomes a system, an item, an idea, a dogma. Then some kind of dynamism is lost in that process, and it might fail to feed the soul at that time or your own inner spirit. So then we were lucky enough to find this guru up in Rishikesh that he lived in a cave, in a cow dung cave with a loincloth, and we were taken to him, by a little a friend from, I don't know, somewhere in the States. And she said, oh, if you really want to experience a saint, she says, meet me for lunch and I'll take you to this fellow, this saint. And she thought it was the last remaining saint in India. And so Bill and I, my husband and I went. We had our blue jeans on and our camera over our shoulder. And, we felt so much like a tourist, doing India. And the guru, the saint, sent us away. He didn't speak English, but he had his German disciple say to us, he's not feeling well today. Come back tomorrow morning at 7. So we got up and we went back, the same kind of trepidation, well, what are we doing here? We have a guru in New York State, and stuff like that. And so we went back at 7, and the the disciples said, come back when the sun is up. So we went away again. And so, I think they said at 10 o'clock, something like that. So we came back at 10. And by that time, we darn well wanted to see this guru. So it was like he challenged us in our commitment to wanting to see him. And he asked us to meditate at the banks of the Ganges for 3 days for 1 hour a day. And it took us 3 days to change our flight reservations because India doesn't, nothing moves very quickly in India. And so we followed his instructions and we meditated by the Ganges. And I don't know, we both had this lovely experience, the kind of thing, where you feel this presence and the white light and, energized and so happy and stuff. And it's hard to put I don't know, how do you talk about something like that? For me, that was truly being in India and experiencing spirituality.
Okay. Well, maybe we put the cart in front of the horse here for a second. So let's explore for a moment, each of us, what spirituality is before we talk about what the problems and issues are applying it. So what is spirituality to you, Danielle, specifically?
Yeah. When I suggested the topic, applied spirituality, I had to kind of ask myself what it was I thought that was too. And I think, and Bill and I talked, we said, what keeps us going, when sometimes life gets pretty tough? And we both felt that, having a deep meaning and purpose in our life and, trying to live from higher principles and trying to be ourselves, our authentic selves as best we can. Those are kind of, for me, applied spirituality.
Great. So what is it for you, Jamie?
Spirituality is my very own personal inner and outer connection to my source. That's pretty much what it is for me. And I think that for most of us, either we become spiritual because something outside of us encourages us to do so, or we're able to seek that connection within ourselves, and then we are able to connect with our spirituality that way. But I think either way, whether it's something outside of us or something within us, I think we all have the ability to create and maintain a spiritual connection.
Yeah, Eugene, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, and for me, it's not only the connection to source, but it's the connection to my truth. And I think one of the biggest challenges with spirituality today is staying authentic in that. Because I think so many of us, and I include myself in that, really have to struggle to figure out what our truth is. Because we've taken on all these belief systems from so many other people. It starts when we're little children and we take on the belief systems of our parents and then our teachers and then gurus and what else, So it's really, I think it's constantly incumbent upon each one of us to figure out what our truth is and stay centered in that, in our connection to our source. So that's kind of how it looks for me.
Yeah, great. And for me, thank you, Jean. And for me is, I think mostly what Jamie said is my connection, my personal connection is what I want to say, my personal connection to my source, my spirit, and also my truth, as well as remembering who I really am. Because I think most of us, and the reason why we're all having issues with this and problems is because we forgot. So if I just, for a moment, just remember yesterday, my granddaughter was at my house, and she's not even 2 years old. So when I look at her and experience her, I am reminded what spirituality is, because she's like pure. She's still pure. We haven't humanized her yet.
It's true.
How does that sound to any of you?
Well, I think that our day-to-day experiences offer us a lot of contrast.
Ooh.
Keep going.
Hey.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi. Oh, finally.
Hi, Jane.
Wow.
Well,
Hi,
welcome to the
everybody.
show. So let me introduce you to all of our viewers. And yes, this is a reality show. You never know what's going to happen,
Right.
or what is going to happen, or what's not going to happen. So let me introduce you to Jane Eileen Cohn. She's also our spirituality cast member, and she's joining us from San Diego. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad to
Fantastic.
finally be here.
Fantastic to have you. So let me just ask you then, because where we are in the show right now is we're just exploring what spirituality is for each of us. So what is it for you, Jane?
Spirituality is coming into a real experience. It's what the real world is composed of. So it's the experience beyond the mundane physical experience. It is tapping into a larger, some people call it divine. I mean, God, I would call it divine or divine truth or the universe, life. A deeper and larger reality than people normally experience based on life, truth, love, principle, consciousness. That's the underlying infrastructure that helps you get into the present moment, which is where you tap into spirituality.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to add something to that, which is, it just came to me as you were speaking about this. Like when we look at an iceberg, what we see on the surface or above the surface as an iceberg is really the human being. And then what's underneath the iceberg that we don't see under the water is really who we are, which is much bigger than what we see. How does that grab anybody?
Well, but I think that when we are connected to ourselves, that we are able to feel other people and feel their spiritual connection with us and with others. So, yes, and yes.
Yes, but
I
we're
think
talking
that
about
we can-
problems and issues, and the problems and issues are, one of them is that most of us are disconnected from ourselves, and therefore we are disconnected from each other. Don't you agree?
Well,
I think we have moments of disconnection. I think that we're all more connected than we know. And I think we have moments of disconnection. So I choose to see it differently. I choose to see it as that we're all more connected than not and have moments of disconnection.
Well, I think we are connected if we're conscious of it, but the whole point is being conscious of the connection. So in other words, I think the key to it is being able to come into the present moment. That is sort of the bridge between the mundane human experience and the divine experience. The ability to come into the present moment is the key, and that's what's so difficult. That's the challenge for humanity.
Well, I'm going to give you a third take on that one because to me, we're always connected whether we're conscious of it or not.
Exactly.
That is the innate state of the universe.
Exactly.
So it's up to us individually to choose to be conscious of it and to be aware of it because the connection is there whether you're aware of it or not. And if you're not aware of it, what happens then is that you get into blame. You pick up other people's energy. You lose your ability to fully create consciously in your reality, and it goes on and on and on. So it's kind of a personal challenge to be aware of what actually exists because it is there.
Yes, it is.
And the
So
thing
I-
about it is, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say this. The thing about it is the fact, I do agree that we are always connected, and that's really important to understand because that means that we are extremely powerful, so that we are creating and manifesting all the time, whether we are conscious of what we are doing or not. And the problem or the challenge comes in is when we've got this huge power, but we're not conscious of how we're using it. That's the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just pondering about the image of the iceberg and wonder, Steve, if what you're saying is all that stuff below the visual often can run our lives. And for those of us who are seeking awakening within, then we have to be aware that the stuff that is unseen within ourselves too can trip us up, and we can fall down the same hole. The negativity, the fear stuff can come in. Is that what you're implying with the iceberg image?
Well, I'm actually applying yes and no. I'm applying both because I believe that who we really are, like when I was describing my granddaughter, so if I said that maybe all we need to do is helping each other and ourselves to remember who we are. So
Yeah.
who are we then, really?
We're love and light. That's who we are.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
All the time. That's it.
And exactly. And what also Jane said is that, yes, I agree that we're all connected. However, when we're not connected, what does this have to do with anything? I think it has to do with the quality of our lives, doesn't it?
Yes, because we are creating consciously or unconsciously, but we are always creating with, and usually it's with our thoughts and our vibrations. So the ideal thing would be to consciously create with our good feeling thoughts and our high vibration. And sometimes the contrast is such that we have greater access to that than other times. So yes, I think that,
What do you mean by contrast?
I think
You use that word a lot. What do you actually mean
I
specifically?
think contrast is what happens in our daily life. Contrast is everything and anything that is other than what we are wanting. So I think that there is a lot of that. And contrast, I think, is a beautiful thing because it allows us to know what we do want based on knowing what we do not want.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. With the contrast, you get stimulated to have to reflect. Who am I in this moment?
Yes.
And am I choosing to call upon my higher self, or will I get caught into the human side of my decision making? And when you think about Steve's 2-year-old granddaughter, I believe you said?
Yes.
Grandchild. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She doesn't have a lot of that input in the shaping and the physical, the human side, where the memory takes her and repeats the same thing. So she's automatically in that moment. Is the way I understand your comparison with your 2-year-old granddaughter.
Yes.
And maybe humans, and they're struggling with issues in life and trying to show up.
Yeah, we've been humanized, I believe, and what we're talking about now really is, or what we'll be talking about soon in the third segment, is how do we actually get spiritualized, not just humanized. Yeah. And what does our internal guidance system called our emotions have to do with any of this?
So are we talking about the problem or the solution right now?
We're talking about still the problems and the solutions.
Okay.
So what our emotions have to do with not being able to apply spirituality to our everyday lives or moment-by-moment lives. Even.
Well, emotions are really good indicators for us of how we're living our life and whether we're living it consciously or not. So when things feel good to us, and life is flowing smoothly, it's a pretty good indication that you're in the flow, on the path, and connected to not only your higher self, but all that is. And when things start to bring up emotions that don't feel so good, that's again another signal that maybe you've kind of like lost that connection or lost your conscious connection, so to speak. And, they're huge clues for us or signals that we need to stop, we need to pause, we need to take a deep, and we need to surrender and figure it out. And a lot of times those emotions get triggered by our connections to everyone else and all that is. We get these wonderful people in our lives that play the mirror for us and bring up to us all those things that we need to remember about our own power and our own divinity, by pushing our buttons and triggering emotions that aren't pretty.
Well, yeah, I would agree with what you're saying, Jean. And you could say another way to look at it is the difference between actual emotion and being triggered. So they can feel very similar to people. a triggered state is not really about tapping into emotions. It's an avoidance of emotions. It's an avoidance of present moment experience. And so I think, when Steve, you're asking about the role that emotions play, I think people don't generally make the distinction between the trigger, which is an avoidance of here and now experience. It is a throwback to an emotional state in which a person sort of distorted what I would call a limiting decision. It is feeling real emotions brings you into the present moment. So if you're avoiding what you're actually feeling because of being in a triggered state, then you're not connected to real emotion because you're not connected to the present moment. I don't know if that's too abstract to be clear to anybody.
Yeah, well, let's add some to that and maybe just look at it a little more deeper. So when we are triggered, can we say that we are disconnected? Can we be triggered and still be connected to our true self and to love?
Now, if you're in a state of being triggered, you are not present.
We are not. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we clarify that for all of our viewers. So when we are triggered, we're disconnected. We're disconnected from ourselves and from others, right?
Yes. I don't know if I don't have the same relationship to the emotions, but I understand the idea. Once you're in the trigger, you've lost your connection. But the trigger itself is like a feedback for the body, and I think of the body as sort of the computer hard drive, and the emotion as some of the software, and then it tells me that this is an opportunity that I have to address. That there's tension within myself, and what I really get upset with is when the emotion has happened and I wasn't able to consciously, observe it, and I got caught. I think that's what Jane's saying, that when you get caught up into that trigger, then you've lost the connection. But the trigger itself is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I completely agree with you. That's how you get. The way you get into the present moment is to start where you are. And if where you are is a triggered state, it's an amazing feedback.
Beautiful, yeah.
It gives you important information. Then it's like a red flag. Look here.
Yeah,
you're
that's
triggered.
Right.
Now focus in on it. Instead of avoiding the experience, focus in on it, let it happen, and get to the bottom of it. And that's how you get into the present moment, to the real, where you really are.
Beautiful.
I must say, I have to disagree with you. I don't disagree, but I'd like to put a different spin on it. Not disagree.
Okay.
I think,
It's okay if you disagree.
We can disagree too.
Is it
Disagree or
against
agree.
your principles to disagree,
Well,
Jamie?
No, I just think that you can be triggered and you can make a conscious choice to bypass that emotion and to reach for a better feeling thought or a better feeling emotion, to distract yourself from whatever it is, that place that you were about to go to usually come undone. So I am really not thinking that we always have to get to the bottom of really anything in order to move along.
Well, I think both are
or make
true.
ways to address it. So
I would agree with that, but I think that is one possible choice, and really you have to listen to your inner guidance, because sometimes one thing is appropriate and sometimes another. So sometimes you have to get to the bottom of it, or you're stuck. Other times when you just you have to play it by ear. I mean, sometimes
getting to the bottom of it makes us stuck. So I think that it's important to make the distinction for yourself. If by exploring something that creates a paralysis and allows you to remain stuck, then that is not always the best way to refocus, reframe, and to move along. So
so I want to ask you a question, Jamie. I get the impression that you think that that's really never productive, whereas I think it's often productive, and it's often productive to distract yourself and get to a better feeling place and move on. It just depends on what your guidance is saying.
Yes, I think that there are moments when it is productive, but I like to look at them as moments. And I think that you can reflect upon something and understand it in a moment, choose to reframe it, and move along. So that's kind of the way I like to tackle those kinds of issues.
And I think the key word that you just said there, Jamie, is move along.
Yeah.
You know, we get so attached to what's familiar to us. And so if we live in a constant state of drama, then drama is going to be familiar to us. It's going to trigger negative emotions. And then we can get all bogged down into trying to figure out what caused it, where did it come from, and when all we really have to do is choose. Every moment of every day is a choice. And we can choose to find a higher thought. Always. You know, in A Course in Miracles, one of the phrases that I love is, I could see peace instead of this.
Oh,
so
I
it is
lost
always
your-
peace.
I lost
And
what you
sometimes
just
it's
said.
appropriate to... I'm sorry? I just said that in A Course in Miracles, it says, I could choose peace instead of this. So we have the choice at any point to do it either way, to do it, you know, one way or the other, Jamie's way, your way, my way, it doesn't matter. But the bottom line is we have to let it go and move on.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm also hearing is that all of this really has a lot to do with where somebody is in their spiritual journey, doesn't it?
Yes,
Absolutely.
of course.
So we don't have a single solution to every human being, because we're all different at different places in time and space, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's really important to understand because Jamie and Jean and I have been on a number of different shows, and it appears that we were representing different, sometimes radically different perspectives on approach to spirituality and increasing consciousness and basically evolution, personal evolution. And it's really hard to understand someone else's experience when you're for instance, for people who are very congruent and very aligned with themselves and can manifest easily, it's hard for them to understand other people who have a lot more trouble manifesting because there are just other challenges that they're dealing with. So it appears to me that the inner world that I live in has been hugely challenging for me my entire life. And so my particular path or evolutionary path has been very rocky. It's been very challenging. And so I've had to go really deep and understand how things work at a very deep level in order to develop the processes that I've developed and help other people as well as my own personal transformation. So a person who doesn't have that kind of inner world, it'd be hard for them to understand the kind of experience that I'm sort of sloshing through as I listen more and more to my guidance, my own personal evolution. Whereas other people can just, point their will in a particular direction and just manifest like crazy, but not everybody can do that.
Well, I think it kind of is the same if you look around at organized religion, and there's a denomination out there for everybody.
Everyone, yes.
And so the people who need your help, Jane, will resonate with you, and they'll find you, even without you reaching out to them. And the same thing goes for Jamie and her, her vibration, and me and my vibration. And I believe it really kind of all boils down to energy, because everything is energy, and it's a frequency. And so we get really good at being true and authentic in our frequency, and from that place we're able to help people who are in that same sort of frequency range or vibration, I think.
I totally agree with you.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yay,
Right
we
on.
have a consensus.
Which is that?
I love it.
Well, the real consensus between all of us is our heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very loving, connected people. I mean, that's where it's really at. That's what people really want. And I feel the heart connection with all of you.
And we feel
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. So this is a great segment. I mean, it's a segue, a bridge into our final segment, which is about let's give our viewers some solutions and also some different modalities that you, the cast, and our guest have used, in the past for yourselves as well as for your clients, that may help them move along on this how to apply really spirituality to our everyday life. Who would like to go first?
All right, I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
Okay. Well, the tool that I primarily use is one of my own creation. It's called InnerSpeak. And I believe that the body doesn't lie, so that you can use muscle testing or kinesiology to allow the body to tell you what's going on underneath the water, in that metaphor of the iceberg that you used earlier, Steve. And so I've got a protocol that you can use, and you can muscle test through it, and it will tell you where you created the blocks that are holding you back, what happened to you when you created them, what it did to your soul, and what you need to do to let it go. So that's the primary tool that I use. Although there are so many conventional therapy approaches, and I do use those as well, as do, I think each of us on the cast. So that's the one that seems to work best for me. I think it all has to do, though, with what platform are you, as the counselor or the coach or the therapist, most comfortable with.
Right. Fantastic. Okay, who wants to go next?
Well, I can talk next. I'm listening to everyone, and I just love all the ideas and that are coming out. I'm sort of seeing that for me, because I chose the word practical. I guess I'm sort of maybe not so much into Course of Miracles, perhaps, or moving away from the drama of life. I tend to be part of the drama life. So I use a behavioral model based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I relate that to the 4 lower chakras in the human instrument, and how those 4 chakras have strengths, and on the flip side, they become our struggles. And I believe that as we go through life, we hone the strengths and we try to work through the parts of us that aren't so well developed. So, I think the kind of tools I use, maybe, again, a little more practical. I am a Taurus, so maybe I need to have here's a how-to, So that's one of the tools I use is self-understanding through, looking at those 4 behavioral topics, like how to do compassion, how to do express your will, how to affiliate and get along with others, and how to build find a secure world that you live in. And then usually one of those needs is calling upon the body to pay attention, and then you can use some other choices, like Jamie's choice of choosing to look at it a different way, or then of course the other tools are some healing arts like reflexology, some yoga postures, and so forth. So, when people say to me, well, what do I do with my emotions, like anger and stuff, I say, well, that's feedback for you to pay attention to. That's telling you you've got to explore that and resolve it. And hopefully we resolve those things, calling upon our heart chakra, and saying, what's the best I can contribute in this situation right now that benefits everybody involved. So, I'm a little more, that's why I say a little more sort of in the body still on my pathway.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
What about you, Jane?
Well, there's actually 2 ways I work. One way is using the NLP timeline process. So I'm an NLP master practitioner.
Me too.
Pardon?
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's the study of the language of the brain, how we form our subjective experience, and how that can be changed. So I work with facilitating the clearing of limiting decisions. Now, and limiting decisions are very different than unhealed issues. It's not that you've been wounded or anything like that. It's an unconscious misinterpretation of reality made at a young age, usually before the age of 6 or 7, that has then distorted your experience of reality, causing you to believe that life doesn't work in that area. So it's a very fast, effective, hypnotic process for getting back to that very first event and clearing it. So, and that's, you talk about getting on with things. You do that, you clear it, it's gone. It's a very fast process. but there's also another way that I work, and it's how I work with myself, and it's what I teach in the Life is Meant to Work thought system. That one of the aspects of it has to do with learning how to come into the present moment, or shifting your consciousness. So it, in a sense, relates probably more to Jean and Jamie, the kind of work that they do. It is. I started developing it in 1995 when I took a stand on the principle life is meant to work, and I would not accept any other solution when I'm working with clients or whatever if it isn't congruent with life is meant to work. And because of that, a whole different perspective of reality opened up for me, a whole thought system that my work is based on that. And so one of the things, as would apply to the subject that we're talking about in terms of applying spirituality, is how do you come into the present moment, understanding what keeps you out of the present moment, and how you come into it on a very practical level, on a day-to-day level. And that does have to do with tapping into what you're feeling, your emotions. If you're disconnected from your emotions, then you have to find a process for getting into it. So basically, it's coming into truth, what is really true in the present moment, which includes what you're feeling, whatever it is, getting to what matters most to you, which also brings you into the present moment, which relates to enlightened self-interest. There's a number of different things that bring you into the present moment, and the present moment is like the interfacing or the bridge to the divine. It's where you tap into inspiration and knowledge and guidance, your higher self. Then it becomes a co-creative process between your intentions and desires and a larger truth and reality. So I could keep going on, but I've talked long enough.
Okay, great. So. I actually, what picked up from that, Jane, and thank you very much, is, and I use this on a lot of shows that I'm on, is no truth, no growth.
Right.
If there's truth, then there's growth.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. What about you, Jamie?
I like to ask my clients to quiet their mind, quiet the mind chatter, and to tune into their inner knowing and their inner being, and to soothe themselves into their connection with themselves. And from that place, I think that they're find it much easier to tap into what they would call spirituality. So those are some of the things that I like to encourage my clients to do, and it seems to work quite well. It's a very gentle and loving process that I think we need to remind people to engage in, because we tend to be very hard on ourselves, and our self-talk tends to be very negative and unloving. So if we can remind ourselves to be more gentle and caring with ourselves, and then I think that then that also translates into our other relationships with other people. So.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. So I'm going to take a big giant leap right now and ask you to explore with me and our viewers, how does the non-physical world interfaces within us as human beings?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so every day we're into this physical existence as human beings, but we may want to acknowledge, of course this is not a must, it's just a request or an idea, that maybe we want to acknowledge that there's a whole non-physical world out there that a lot of people won't acknowledge. And that's what I'd like to explore with you, if you're up to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that when we're connected to ourselves, that we can more easily tap into that non-physical level of being that really exists for all of us. And we all have access to it if we wanted access to it.
And how can we help people, our viewers, to get connected to that more?
I think people inherently know that it's there. And my observation is people have a lot of emotional defense systems, which have to do with protecting us from the limiting decisions that we've made. And so people are very, very active on a generally unconscious level at manipulating and diverting how other people relate to them, how you relate to other people, to avoid what is really true. so there is sort of an unspoken drama that is happening because when you come into the present moment, that's where transformation occurs. That's where the living, live energy happens. That's where people don't feel in control, which is really what needs to happen. You have to be able to let go of control in order to... When you connect with this non-physical spiritual energy, you are in co-creation with divine truth. You're in co-creation with something that is larger than you, that brings you into who you really are, and that contrasts with the emotional defense systems. And that's where the drama comes in. And so there are certainly ways to be aware of these emotional defense systems in order to stop doing that. If you stop putting up your emotional defense systems, you are in the present moment. Then you are connected to spirituality, that truth. It's just a matter of stopping doing the defenses. And then the question is how you do that.
I think a lot of people really kind of tighten down when you start talking about letting go of control, because it brings up their fear of being out of control. But so the big illusion, I think, of all of that is that the opposite of control is not out of control. The opposite of control is surrender. It's completely knowing that there is something out there that's larger than ourselves, that we cannot see,
Absolutely.
the non-physical world, and allowing that aspect that knows way more than we do as a mortal person to actually, help us to navigate through the flow of life.
Absolutely, I agree.
With this is where I think I synergize or connect with Jamie's methods, because until you can go into the meditation or the prayer or the quiet activity, like I know at the ashram we did the fire ceremony, and it kind of focuses the mind, and so that through that quieting of the mind through relaxation, that allows the mind an openness to receive that interface with the higher expressions, the unconscious or the spiritual vibrations that are available to us. So that's really the only way you can tap into it, is to step out of the human side and allow the body to kind of open up to the three chakras above, like the ether and beyond, and then the breath helps to bring that calmness and quietness of the mind to the whole body, and that's for me the only way I've seen to interface with spirituality at that level.
Very interesting. Yeah, I many years ago, when I was introduced to meditation, and also I have spent weekends and as much as a week without speaking. That was at first that was a huge challenge for me. Obviously I like to talk, so can you imagine me?
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, can you imagine me not speaking for an entire week? It's not an easy thing to do. But I'd like to suggest that if people try that, your entire world may change.
And we can have all kinds of conversations with each other without ever speaking a word. I mean, I spend a lot of time with people, and there is ongoing communication with no spoken word. And I have to say, it's wonderful and mind-blowing.
Very powerful, yeah.
It's really fantastic. So
I was meditating years ago, and for weeks, and I remember looking at a flower, and it was so amazing to me. The flower had so much going on in it, and I just thought, holy cow, such a lot of activity in that flower, and it just pronounced to me the power of meditation, and how deep and profound you can go in that experience. And I contrasted that to living downtown Toronto, and I thought, how do we deal with all of that stimulation when there's so much going on in one flower? Sorry, I hope I didn't go off too far in a tangent.
no, that's
beautiful.
No, it's fine. Have you spent any time in Boulder and San Francisco?
No. Oh, San Francisco I have. Yeah, I like San Francisco. Francisco very much. Yeah.
I lived in Boulder for like 14 years, and a lot of people call us. I don't live there anymore, but a lot of people call us tree huggers.
Tree huggers.
It's like that when you
They
go
were
into
just-
that expression. Yeah.
We're just in La La Land with all of this stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's- it's a nice place to be.
I think so too.
I don't think so, because if you look at the window these days, humanity isn't doing too well right now in a lot of areas.
It's a stressful place we're in right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's more and more room for what we're doing here on the Living Consciously TV show, and I know that a lot of people are viewing this show, and today, unfortunately, we are in Studio B, so we don't have callers. But next week we will. So I want to make sure that people that are watching us right now, or viewing us right now, make a note that next week you can definitely call us on 720-222-0158 and get connected and get interactive with the cast and with me and with the show. And that's really what I think in the future, we're going to be taking a few weeks off here, starting the week after next, and we will start the show back up. Our episodes are 13 weeks, and so we're going to start our next series of shows in December, and we're bringing the cast back into Denver. Here's where the studio is, and I'll guarantee you, just from my personal experience, it will be a completely different show than what it was in February when we actually launched this show. I feel that we have grown so much. I know I have grown so much.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I'd like some feedback from all of you cast members. How do you feel right now? We're almost done with the first 13 weeks, but how does this occur for you? Like, how do you feel, and how do you view what we're doing after almost 13 weeks?
Well,
I think we've
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Jean.
I think we've come together in our connection with each
Yeah.
other.
I agree.
And to the point that I think that the shows now are more cohesive and coherent than they were in the beginning.
Right. We didn't really know at the beginning what we were doing, or I think we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know how to do it. So this is like a great example for people, I think, is that don't let that ever stop you. Like, if you don't know how to do something, as long as you start and you start doing it, the how will come, because, obviously we're figuring it out.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Somehow, magically, we're figuring it out. So I'm just checking the watch right now. We still have a few more minutes here before we have to close the show out. So I'd like to ask our guest, Danielle, how did you experience the show today, and what were you present to?
Oh, well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on later, not sooner.
I don't know what that means.
That means the shows are better now.
Yeah, I like the congruent and connectedness that is experienced with the group, and so I can't speak about earlier, but thank you. I really, truly enjoyed all the contributions to the topic of spirituality. It always challenges your own thinking about things when you take a favorite topic and you think you know something about it, and then you hear other people's perspective on it. So, like Steve says, it's the way we continue to grow and evolve and get feedback from each other. So it was a wonderful experience, and I thank each and every one of you for having me as your guest today. I really enjoyed myself. And you made me feel comfortable and relaxed, so thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And that's really all the time we have for today. I want to give many thanks to our viewers, as well as our guest, Danielle Galt, and also all of our cast members, as well as the cast, the entire cast, not just the ones that are on the show today, and the crew back behind the glass. Don't forget to vote and comment of our shows. The more you vote, the more our shows are being played on Comcast on channel 56, 57, and 219. And interact with us on our website at www.livingconsciously.tv. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
see you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye for now.